Bullshit.
The Pareto principle even applies to youth sports, school boosters organizations, and community service programs. It's the No Bullshit Marketing Show. I'm Dave Mastovich, CEO and founder of Massolutions, the world's only no bullshit marketing firm. I was at a sports boosters organization at the local high school last night, listening, observing, which I do. I like to look around and listen and review the notes and the handouts, and it hit me. The Pareto principle applies to this organization. And then I thought back to youth sports, 6, 7, 8-year-old athletics, 10, 12. I thought the Pareto principle applies there too. Then I thought about all the community service organizations, the giving back. And I said the Pareto principle applies there too. What's the Pareto principle? Vilfredo Pareto was an economist in Italy, and in 1906 he created his famous enduring principle when he was studying land ownership in Italy in 1906. He found that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the population. But Vilfredo Pareto didn't stop there. He realized that that Pareto principle could be applied to far more than land ownership. It could be applied to management, marketing, human capital, sales, and yes, youth sports, sports boosters organizations, community service programs. It comes down to this. 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. That's what the Pareto principle means. 80% of the consequences comes from 20% of the causes. Why did it strike me during this booster meeting? I heard again and again the refrain that we've got to get more people involved. We've got to get more people involved. And I thought, I believe in the Pareto principle, but I also have a unique perspective as a parent. I've been blessed to have 3 sons who were involved in athletics, multiple sports, over their entire lives. But that doesn't make me unique. There's a lot of people like that. What makes me unique is that those 3 sons were each in a different school system, 3 different school systems, 3 different sets of booster organizations, 3 different youth sports situations. I can tell you, 80% of the work was done by 20% of the families in all 3 of those situations. So the Pareto principle applies even to youth sports, booster organizations, community service programs, but also to your company. The Pareto principle applies to your company because you need to understand who your customers really are. Right now it applies. 80% of your business roughly comes from 20% roughly of your customers. When we break this down for our clients, sometimes it's 17% leads to 77%. Sometimes it's 19% leads to 76%. Sometimes it's 21% leads to 79%. It's really close to 20% of your customers generate 80% of your revenue. So that's who your real customers are today. But who should they be? What money are you leaving on the table? So when companies apply the Pareto principle, they have to use target market segmentation. That's why the behavioral science that drives the creative art of the no bullshit marketing system relies on things like the Pareto principle. It's a starting point to begin to look at who your customers really are today and then to begin to study where they should be tomorrow. And part of the problem is most people segment by 2 or 3, age, income, zip code. when you need to segment by 5 or 6 variables. Most people build personas that are just kind of cute and break down a couple of little things that make people think about a group that is angry Angie. And that actually takes things down the wrong path. People begin to just see this one trait. But if you use the Pareto principle, then you apply the real drill down and the 4, 5, 6 segmentation model of no bullshit marketing, you begin to get a real set of target markets that you can make meaningful impact on. So you're spending the resources, targeting the right audience at the right time with the right story through the right medium or channel. That's how your company can use the Pareto principle. But this show's about leadership and communication. So I want to talk about leadership for a minute. Your leaders need to be able to use the Pareto principle because 80% of your best work is going to come from 20% of your peak performers. You need to look at those peak performers and give them the resources and tools that they need and the support and the communication. It doesn't mean that the other 80% of employees don't matter. They do. But you have to be honest as a leader and accept that there are peak performers, and the Pareto principle applies to human capital. It applies to manufacturing. It applies to the customer base. So let's go back to the booster organization. Sat in that meeting. It lasted about 2 hours. I came in late. Why did I do that? Not by intent, but I've learned over the years that that's actually probably a sound strategy, even though it wasn't. I just was running late here at the office. Drove there. I got there about 20 minutes late. And sure enough, I hadn't really missed much, which is good because for me to sit through a 2-hour meeting is tough, anybody that knows me. Sat through the 2-hour meeting, listened and listened. I kept thinking, hearing family member after family member talking out, trying to get people more involved. And I thought, here's what we do in these boosters organizations, and here's what we do in the coaches organizations for youth sports and the youth sports back-end operations and the dance teams and any other organization, whether it's music, arts, whether it's sports. It doesn't have to be just sports, music, arts, any academics, anything, is you're trying to get more people involved. And that's okay. You should. You have to ask. But the more important thing to do in those organizations is take that 20% that's producing 80% of what you want and need for the organization, recognize them, thank them, make their job easier with systems and processes, give them tools and resources, because they're going to keep doing what they do no matter what. So if you make them more efficient and effective, it's going to help the organization. And secondly, you ain't changing that 80%. And that 80% all aren't lazy. Some donate with cash, some donate enough of their time, and then there's a smaller percentage that really don't do much at all. But instead of trying to change this small percent that doesn't do anything at all, you ain't changing them much. And the other people are at least supporting a little. Give the resources, the tools, the support, the recognition, and the thank you to that 20% of families that are producing 80% of what that organization needs. Thanks for listening to another episode of the No Bullshit Marketing Show, recorded here in our studio in bold, beautiful downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.